Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video day, and we're going to be talking about who the Houston Texans should be hiring as their new head coach going into the 2023 season after firing Lovie Smith last night. Obviously, it's going to take a while to hire, and especially when the two guys that you are interested in, possibly both of their teams could be going to the Super Bowl. So, let's be honest, 49ers and Eagles both have a shot to make it in the Super Bowl representing the NFC. But the Texans today did ask for permission to interview both defensive coordinators for the Eagles and 49ers. For the Eagles, defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon, and a familiar face to Texans fans and the Texans organization, DeMarco Ryans, which would be my favorite to add in for the Texans. So that is my favorite to adding in for the Texans to bring in. Obviously, I think Jonathan Gannon. I like Jonathan Gannon. I think he could be a good NFL head coach. If he doesn't get hired by the Texans, he will be hired by someone else. Just the question is who. I don't know who will hire him. There's a lot of candidates. You got the Colts. There's a bunch of teams. The Cardinals fired their head coach. The Panthers job is available. There's a bunch of open jobs in the NFL for head coaching. I just don't know if I see the Texans being that one. I could see it happening. I could see Nick Caserio and Jonathan Gannon. I think they could. I don't know. They could have some chemistry. Jonathan Gannon and Nick Caserio look like two guys who could get along with each other. But I'm leaning towards DeMarco Ryans in this situation. And I start with number one. I said in my Texans post game when I talked about the game yesterday, I said that the Texans needed to hire a defensive coach, right? And they needed to hire someone who was experienced, someone who, could give us a voice in the locker room. Not saying Jonathan Gannon's not going to do that. I'm sure he could. But someone, who, not only do they have experience as a coach, but maybe, even as a player, too. And I just feel that with DeMarco Ryans. This is a Texans defense who is really starting to make some noise in this league. Obviously it's not on high alert in the NFL right now, but it could be next season once this team starts to play. Once Derek Stingley Jr. is healthy, and Jalen Petrie gets his second year. Jonathan Grenard has the full game. We saw him for one of the last 3 or 4 games of the season. Just of the way he looked then, he's going to be a really talented player. There's some other really talented players in this defense. I'm assuming the Texans draft a couple other decent defensive players in this year's draft. So it just looks to get more promising with the defense. So having a guy, a voice in the locker room, a guy who did play defense in the NFL, a guy who not only did he play defense in the NFL, but he coached. He is the defensive coordinator for the best defense in the NFL. The Eagles are a pretty good defense too, but the 49ers are the best defense in the NFL. What they do week after week is just incredible, and he's one of the reasons why they do that. So he could be a big part to make this defense even better for this Houston Texans. As a young team, 49ers, probably when DeMarco Ryans started as the defensive coordinator, were starting to be a young team. They've developed as a team, and I think that he could really help our defense. Not only that, but he played for the Texans. He was with the Texans for 6 seasons. Probably has a decent relationship with the owners. That's one thing. Obviously, he didn't play with anybody that's still on the team because he did play with one person, and I don't even know if they'll be on the team going into next season. But he did play with John Weeks for a season. The long snapper that somehow is still in the Texans. The only Texan left from years ago. Somehow we drafted him in 2010, and he's still stuck around. Could maybe leave this offseason or retire. We'll see. So maybe there's a chance he gets to coach one of his former teammates in John Weeks, but it's not like that's a defensive player. Maybe they have a good relationship. But I think that, that's another thing. He played for the Texans. That's another thing that could be really good. Texans might want to bring him in, using that fact that he did play for the Houston Texans with us for 5 years. And he also played with the Eagles as well. That's funny because Jonathan Gannon. I think he could be, I think he'd be a great help for the defense too, but I'm just leaning more of DeMarco Ryans. I really am, because just of, how he played in the NFL. And he played for the Texans. And not only that, but he coaches the best he is the defensive coordinator for the best team in the NFL. The best defense in the NFL, and is really good at what he does. And I don't know how he would be as a head coach, but I'm really confident in DeMarco Ryans as a head coach, and I would feel really bad if the Texans would pass on him. I think he is our guy to be our head coach. We've hired the last 2 years, we've hired multiple guys who have not been they have not been it for us. Lovie Smith was not it. Then you go to Lovie Smith was not the right coach for us. Then before David Culley, he was not the right coach for us. DeMarco Ryans, it could be a really good coach for us, and so could be Jonathan Gannon. But I think it could be really interesting to see what happens with this. We'll see. I think it will be interesting. I think, over the days or weeks to come, there might be some other candidates. This will not, I think, most likely, if it's one of these guys, we won't have a hiring for weeks to months, because of the potential Super Bowl that one of these guys might be in. If not, unless the Texans hire someone else, let's be honest, the Eagles have a bye this week, unless the 49ers lose to the Seahawks, which in the first round, which I think there's no way in hell the 49ers lose the Seahawks this week. The Texans are not going to be hiring anyone soon, unless some other candidate pops up that isn't Jonathan Gannon or DeMarco Ryans. They'll be able to interview him, I'm sure, but I don't think they're not going to. Maybe they do take the. I think there might have been a team last year. I think there might have been someone from, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Kevin O'Connell. He was on the Rams last year, and he took the head coaching job from the Vikings before like a couple of days before the Super Bowl. Like, he was the offensive coordinator for the Rams during the Super Bowl last year, and was the Vikings' current head coach. So technically, they could hire one of these guys if they were to be in the Super Bowl or still in the playoffs. But the likely of it happening, I don't think so. Some people won't want to do that to their current team. So I would think that probably these guys, maybe I can think. I really don't know. I don't want to spoil my playoff predictions yet, because I do think some things about what could happen in the playoffs with possibly the Eagles or the 49ers. Obviously, I think these two teams could meet up in the NFC Championship game, but I think that we'll just have to see what happens, guys. But you guys let me know who you think the Texans should hire as their head coach: DeMarco Ryans, Jonathan Gannon, or someone else. But that's really it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and let me know your thoughts, and peace out. Go Texans.